John and Tom stand tall, discussing corruption, answering the call. Osceola's whispers, the truth we unveil. With each podcast episode, we set sail. Unsanctioned voices, we won't be ignored. Taking through lies, we strike a chord. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. John and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Politicians trembling, they know we're awake. With facts on our side, we're here to shake. From local elections to making it clear, together we rise, let's spread the fear. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. John and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. John and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. So tune in each week, don't miss the show. John and Tom will help you know. You can get some.
Florida Democratic Party Chair Nikki Fried says that's because momentum is favoring Democrats.
What we are seeing here is unprecedented levels of enthusiasm. And now it is our job to turn that energy into action.
Welcome back to Full Circle Florida. Self-examination is hard. It usually means admitting you were wrong or at least ill-informed. In politics, the losing party often has to go off into the woods, so to speak, to figure out who they really are and how they can reemerge stronger, smarter, and most of all, relevant.
Welcome to Unsanctioned.
Wow, that's more than usual.
The governor would be disappointed.
We're in for a show today.
The governor would be disappointed if I didn't have my cards. Do you know?
Step up and hold those for you while you're doing it.
Yes. Sheriff Ivey and I put bad guys in jail. Our criminal justice system holds them accountable, and the federal government lets them into your neighborhood to rob and pillage and steal and rape and murder. Our governor is a leader. He's saying, look, the people of the state of Florida, the people of the United States of America elected Donald Trump because Donald Trump said he was going to fix this illegal immigration issue And our top priority is the illegal immigrants in this country that are committing crime. So I want to give you just a quick snapshot of why our governor is saying Florida needs to set the example for the other states to support the president to get rid of these criminals who are victimizing our people. How about Edie Grandos? He's not only here illegally, he killed a 21-year-old. He was leaving the scene of a crash, no driver's license, in Homeland, Florida. Think about that for a minute. We had another instance where we arrested a guy 4 times for no driver's license, and ICE never deported him. Oh, that's minor. And then he ran over someone on a scooter and killed them. Had he been deported for violating the law, that person riding the scooter would be alive and well today. And then there's Elmer Kennel. He's 24. 2 people died, and a 18-year-old high school girl will be injured with issues forever because he was here illegally from Guatemala, caused a car crash, and 2 people died.
Yeah, we really do. This is an incredibly important issue to the country. It's been many, many years in the making. In 2016, Trump won the election in large part due to the immigration problems. And from 2016 to 2025, almost 10 years later, we still haven't resolved that problem. And the immigration problem has been going on for many decades prior to that. So it's a shame that we don't have the moral fortitude to the internal fortitude to fix this. That and by us, I mean the legislatures of the country and the Congress. It's just sad. So people are being victimized. It's unnecessary. A lot of I think that Democrats say, "Oh well, the immigrants aren't causing more crime than Americans are." It makes no difference. That has nothing to do with it. The fact is, if 10% of your crime is caused by immigration, then you can reduce the crime by 10% just by resolving that one problem. No other issue, resolving no other issue in the United States that is realistic would impact crime on the same level. So there's no reason to backtrack or to not just do this. Well, there are reasons, but none of them are for the benefit of the citizens of the United States. And so that's kind of where we're at now. So welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned Florida. This is episode 102, January 18, 2025. So 102, man. We put a lot of these together already, Tom, huh? On this episode, we saw 2 videos, right? The first one we just finished talking about, the most recent one. And then prior to that, we saw Nikki Fried talk about her abusive relationship. Unfortunately for her, that abusive relationship was with the voters of Florida who don't want anything to do with her. We saw sheriff's lament inaction on immigration. We just talked about Florida voters caught. Now, the Florida voters are caught also in an abusive relationship, and it's with the Florida legislature. The voters of the state of Florida have spoken clearly, clear as day. There should be no misunderstanding. There should be no confusion. Florida is a deep red state. Florida is not a rat state. Republicans against Trump. Florida is not a rhino state. Republicans in name only. Florida is a 100% deep red state with nearly 90% of Florida voters being MAGA. Go do your job, because I think that the legislature is going to pay the price of fighting against their own citizens. And so awkwardly. It's really terrible. So anyways, that's our Florida. That's our relationship. Et tu, Brute. And you, Brutus. Florida has a new senator. It is not a lot of the people. I think, again, the majority of voters, I think that in all polling thought that Lara Trump would be the best pick for senator, but it was not her. In the end, it is Ashley Moody. Ashley Moody. Now, Ashley Moody has had very high, very respectable numbers in not just but in approval ratings. I think that the people like her, they trust her, and she seems like a very hard charger. If any woman was carrying a shield in the battle, a shield and a sword, Ashley Moody seems like the type, because she has really done a good job as AG. I think that while some people are disappointed, I don't think anybody's disappointed in Moody. They're just disappointed in the fact that they didn't get who they wanted. And some of the names were like Corey Mills, who would have been a tremendously effective MAGA senator, right? And I just think that he was maybe a little bit too close to Trump, a little bit too supportive of Trump. So I'll probably get that nod from the governor, but nonetheless, we'll talk about that in a little while. Donalds makes it clear what he's going to be doing here soon. Power crashes into his next term as chair of RPOF. Another Dem jumps ship, while another's accused of getting to Congress on Uncle Sam's dollar, an expensive dollar, right? We have a teachers union leadership accused of fraud. Go figure. That's not the first teachers union for that to happen. Central Florida Sunrail moves to the next phase. Alleged child peddler and owner of LGBTQ gets put in jail or arrested. Unreal. Former state rep accused of COVID wrongdoing. It's sad to see what's going on in that story. We'll talk about that. Osceola cities reluctantly obey the law, and more on this episode of Unsanctioned Florida. We're going to do a quick prayer and get right into the show. Thank you for joining us. I am former school board member John Arguello. My great friend over here is Citizen Tom Lord, and this is Unsanctioned Florida, episode 102. So, Lord, we are truly grateful to live in this state. The problems that we have are not like the problems that have in other states like Minnesota and California and New York. We are grateful for that, although we know that we cannot rest on our laurels, that we must continue to strive to make this state better and better for the citizens of this state and residents of this. We know that that has a lot to do with our relationship with you. The closer we are to you, the better our state. Now, it's time to, it may seem like it's time to relax, but we know right now it's not the time to relax. The time is to begin the hard work of governing in a country and the state that has finally is coalescing under one banner and finally coming together with a sense of unity and national pride. And we are all grateful for that. We know that you're the inspiration and the reason that good things happen. So we pray that things continue to happen in this country and for the people of this country. In your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right,
All
let's
right,
start
Tom.
off with some stories from the state of Florida. All right, John. So, where do we begin here? Where do we begin? So, let's begin with this. So, it began like this.
Have a responsibility to be in this fight. State and local officials in Florida must help the Trump administration enforce our nation's immigration laws. And we are going to need, in order to do that effectively, we are going to need legislation to impose additional duties on local officials and provide funding for those local officials. There also needs to be measures to hold people accountable who are violating our anti-sanctuary policies. And then Florida needs to make sure that we don't have any lingering incentives for people to come into our state illegally. So therefore, I'm going to call the legislature into special session starting the week of January 27th. We have the next president taking office January 20th. We anticipate executive orders to be issued immediately after the swearing in and the inaugural address. We're going to have some time to process to make sure we're doing what we need to do, but then we need to act, and we need to act quickly. We don't have time to waste. The American people spoke very clearly of all the issues out there, and there were a lot of very important issues. This issue of the border and illegal immigration was one of the top issues in the 2024 election, and has been one of the top issues that we've had in this country for many, many years.
Now, John, I agree with the governor 100% right there with what he had to say. And by the way, if you didn't realize it, John, that video came from Florida's Voice News. It was all over the video. You had it at the top of the video, the bottom of the video. It came from Florida's Voice News, so obviously that's where it came from. So the governor says this. We want to have
in case you missed it.
Yeah, in case you missed it, it was from Florida's Voice. The governor, he comes out, he says we need to have a special session. We need to get on this right away. There's going to be executive orders issued, yada, yada, yada. But then this happens. A joint memo from Florida Senate President Albritton and House Speaker Daniel Perez saying that they do not want to have a special session. And this is the memo, John. 2 pages. And this is their response to the governor. As you know, this legislature will address illegal immigration, condominiums, petition initiatives, and hurricane recovery this session, which starts in 50 days. Calling a special session at this time is premature. In particular, when it comes to immigration, we are strong supporters of President Trump and stand ready to follow his lead. At this time, we are not aware of any specific guidance provided to the states about action state legislatures can take to support forthcoming federal action. It is completely irresponsible to get out ahead of any announcements President Trump will make, especially when uninformed or ill-timed. State action could potentially impair or impede the success of President Trump's forthcoming efforts to end illegal immigration, close to our borders, and protect the sovereignty of our nation. They go on to say that they're looking forward to the president's inauguration. While the governor discussed fragments of ideas for a special session, he plans to start in just 14 days. He did not release any actual bill language or even meaningful details for legislators and our constituents to consider. With regard to additional issues outlined by the governor this morning, fact is there are ample funds accessible and available to pay for the state's ongoing disaster response efforts, and additional funds do not have to wait until July 1st. And they go into the other issues that were brought up. They end it, John, with where is it? Okay, there it is. With regard to all right, so anyway, it says Florida's Constitution compels our attendance at a special session unilaterally called by the governor. However, the power to convene a special session also resides with the presiding officers. As the people's elected representative, this legislature, not the governor, will decide when and what legislation we consider. All right,
Wow.
what are you thinking, John?
Well,
what do you think's going on here?
Well, I wrote about this in my Substack. Who's the lame duck, DeSantis or the legislature? In my opinion, it's the legislature, and the reasoning is as follows. The governor is twice as powerful, in my opinion, as the legislature in terms of the voting members being able to drive voters and move voters. And and the legislature just does not have the type of star power that DeSantis does. Now, if you could, theoretically, you have DeSantis and you have Trump together again, that is an unstoppable force. And Trump already came out in favor of calling the special session. So I don't know. I don't know. Why are they doing this? The question, I think, is best answered by asking questions. Like, if you look at everyone's career, and then you look at how they're impacted by illegal immigration. If they're positively impacted by immigration, then you have to question why they would do this. Why not go to special session? Why wouldn't you? And so I know that I've joked and I've said, hey, maybe the lobbyists haven't had the time to tell them what to say because it was kind of like a surprise. But at the same time, you have the president of the Senate who's in agriculture. You have all the lobbyists in agriculture. And they benefit from what? Illegal immigration. Now, a ton, and I know many people in the agriculture business, my family's in the agriculture business as well. I know that a lot of them say, oh, there's no illegal aliens on this. We don't use any illegal aliens. We only use, but even with, if everyone had, first of all, if you didn't use any illegal aliens at all, you would be very hard pressed in terms of numbers to meet the capacity that you need for labor. At the same time, I know a lot of people who are agriculture who do use illegal aliens to get things done, right? And I'm talking about here in Osceola County.
Yeah.
So it's a tough situation. So if I were Al Britton, I don't think that I could have in good faith refuse to take action. All right. I don't think that like sugar is a very powerful lobby. I don't know much about the sugar business at all, but that's a huge business. And I don't know. You got to wonder. It's just very strange that they would do this. Why would they rebuff? I think that they lose. At the end of the day, they lose. Whether or not they have a special session or not, whether or not they go into session according to its regular time frame, or they do it starting tomorrow, it makes no difference. I think that they lose. And so why put out a memo putting yourself at odds? I think that it's a play that they don't necessarily have. It's an overplaying of the hand.
I think you have a point there, John, when you're talking about the legislators, their relationships with the agriculture industry and what effect this could have on them, why they won't go to special session, why they want to go back and forth with the governor and release this memo. I don't know. I don't get it. I think it's a bad move, but I can tell you this. These legislators did not do the entire will of the people last session. And if they did a really poor job. Listen, if they go into this session and don't do it, they're in big trouble.
Yeah. Well, I think that they're in their mind, they're considering several things. Number one, voters have very short memories, right? They're depending on that. That's the only reason that most of these guys survive to begin with. Number two, they have a ton of money, right? So they have the Senate campaigns has more than $30 million. Who knows what the House does? Remember, they spent millions on District 35 for an opponent that couldn't even tie her own shoes. No. She had to have Velcro shoes. So when you have money to getting bad people to office, the problem is eventually they get to office and then they're not there, right? And that's the problem with being a lobbyist-driven organization. Yeah. So to me, I think that lobbying aspect is one of the big complexities here. And then number two, of course, the president of the Senate, when he came in, he declared that his priority was going to be agriculture. So,
well, there you go.
How can you defeat the immigration problem and at the same time put agriculture at the top? It takes time, and maybe that's why the delay, because they're like, no, we're not. We got to think about how this impacts agriculture and so on, because that's the priority as the president of the Senate, according to him, if I remember correctly. I was here. Oh. So I don't know, but it certainly doesn't look well, and there's costs. There's costs involved there. So I think that if somebody really didn't like the president of the Senate, this would be a very it's a vulnerability for him.
Yes.
And it's a vulnerability for all agriculture people who get the money. And Osceola County is a big agriculture county, right? And it puts them at odds with the base in their counties.
I'll just say this,
So it is a danger.
Daniel Perez put his name on this too, so you guys need to do the will of the people. President Trump said this is the number one issue, and we've seen that in this election cycle. That was the number one issue, was illegal immigration. We got to get this taken care of.
Well, the border, right? Specifically the border.
Yep. And we got to get this taken care of. So these legislators better be ready to work, better be ready to do the will of the people, or you better be ready to lose your job there. Anyhow, let's move on, John.
I hope. I mean, it would be great to see some people lose their jobs just for the just for the sake of some fresh blood.
Yeah, that we definitely need that. That's for sure. The governor did act this week, John, and he did appoint Ashley Moody as Marco Rubio's Senate replacement. Here he is.
So that is why today I'm proud to announce that I am selecting our Attorney General, Ashley Moody, to serve as our next U.S. Senator. So, many of you know her. She's obviously been on the ballot twice statewide and won big victories. She's honorably served our people as her time as Attorney General over these last 6 years. She's a fifth-generation native of Plant City, Florida, in the Tampa Bay area, and even was named queen of the famous Strawberry Festival back in her youth.
Yep, and there's no doubt about her qualifications, John. No doubt whatsoever. But I remember saying on a show, I think it was 2 shows ago when we were talking about this, the possible people that he could put in place of Marco Rubio. I said that if he picked Ashley Moody, that she could possibly be a placeholder for him for later on down the line. I don't know. What do you think, John? Are you there, John?
I think that if a placeholder, you hear me?
Yeah, you're kind of breaking up a little bit. Yeah, John froze up, and then he dropped out. Okay, so anyway, like I was saying, a couple of shows back, I predicted that she could possibly be a stand-in or a placeholder for the governor later on down the line if the governor wanted to run for that Senate seat or, put himself in that Senate seat. That could be the case. There's no doubt about Ashley Moody's qualifications. She's definitely a good choice. But this is truly a win-win for the governor if you think about it. If she is the placeholder for himself, great, that's good for her. It's also good because if he pulled a Corey Mills or a Byron Donald and placed them in that would reduce the majority in the House. And it's already a razor-thin majority. We cannot afford to make it any thinner than it already is. So, I'm kind of glad to see that Ashley Moody is going to be the next senator and not a Corey Mills or a Marco Rubio, even though they would have been great. I would have really loved to have seen Laura Trump, But, yeah, this is what we got, John. Did you get to hear anything that I said?
I did.
Yeah.
So I think that he had a choice to make whether he was going to run or not for this seat, whether he was going to appoint someone as a placeholder. If he was going to appoint a placeholder, I think it would have been more like the reverse. The gentleman, Uthmeyer, who his chief of staff, who he put in as the AG, is also very good. A lot of people, deep conservatives, MAGA Republicans, celebrating who he picked for AG. I think that he would have been the Senate pick, and then he would have asked him to drop out so that he could run for it in 2 years. I think that would have been a super competitive seat. Probably DeSantis could have beat anybody who ran, especially if he had made up in some big public way with Trump. Then it would have been tough, especially if he's at war with the legislature, which also I covered in my Substack. But I think that when he picks Moody, he's picking Moody long term. I think she's a long term pick. As I was saying, I think that a lot of people, I don't think anybody can be disappointed in Moody specifically. They can only be disappointed that maybe the person that they preferred didn't get it.
Right.
She's probably going to be a pretty good senator, but I think that she's going to be like Rick Scott in the sense that she might be better than Rick Scott even. She might be better in the sense that her policies might be to the right of Rick Scott, if, possibly. But I think that her personality is a little bit more open to the public, so to speak, but she's also going to be kind of quiet and not necessarily grassroots type of person.
Yeah.
And so I think that if you had picked somebody like Corey Mills, he would have been a grassroots type of person. I think that that's what my thing was. I like I said, I can't be disappointed with Ashley Moody. She's done a great job as AG, so there's nothing bad to say about her.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I like grassroots candidates. So
I mean, I think anybody would have loved a Corey Mills. I would have loved a Corey Mills. The only thing I wouldn't have loved about it is it would have taken away from the numbers we have in the House. And
yeah,
you know,
I think that anybody's going to win that seat. Whoever, any Republican that runs, it's just a matter of Corey Mills would have certainly had to have picked a uh, 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 someone else who would like him, and I would imagine because he's pretty popular in that district.
yeah,
Can see. So who knows? We'll see who runs for it.
absolutely.
Well, I mean, he's going to run for it. I don't know. He might run for governor, actually. I mean, for senator in 2 years, because he said he was going to do that.
Yeah.
Right. If he runs for senator in 2 years, and it's going to be Corey Mills versus AG Moody, that's a crazy race, and then you're going to see how the party splits. But again, you can't complain who wins or who loses. It's just a matter of you get the person that you prefer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I you know, the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of leaning against the fact that she might be a placeholder for Governor DeSantis. I think Governor DeSantis is not done with his presidential aspirations. I think that we're going to see him again in 2028 in that field of candidate. And I think that's the more likely scenario. I think we'll also see a neocon candidate. I think they're going to try again. I think we're going to see a never Trumper candidate. They're going to try again. I think there's going to be a lot of people lining up to take on J.D. Vance, even though they really shouldn't. Because I think that if this is successful 4 years, this is truly the onset of a new golden age of America. I think that anybody who tries to go up against J.D. Vance.
Well, I think that you're not. If J.D. Vance makes a lot of mistakes over the next 4 years, it's possible because if anybody's going to win, they have to win to the MAGA side of J.D. Vance, right?
True.
That's the only way you're going to win. You're not going to win being a Mitt Romney will never win anything again, right? He probably couldn't even win a balloon popping contest.
He's done. Mike Pence is done.
So, and anybody like him,
yeah,
they're all done. They're all done. It doesn't matter how much money they throw into a race; they're never going to get a vote.
No.
So you have, you know, I mean, so you could have DeSantis to the right of J.D. Vance possibly, and they're kind of similar in vibe, you know, somewhat. No, I mean, I think that he needs to get into the administration if he wants to run for president, though, because he can't take 2 years off and then run for president. That's going to be really hard for him.
That's true. It's going to be hard. But I don't think, like I said, that his presidential aspirations are done. I think he's somehow, some way going to try. So we'll see, though. It's going to be an interesting 2028. That's for sure. But one person who is going to run, and sooner rather than later, and we kind of talked a little bit about this on the last show. We were talking about a couple of people who have already expressed interest in running for governor. Well, now it is official, or at least according to NBC News, Representative Byron Donalds is going to run for governor in 2026. And they cite a couple of things. They say that he's been telling potential donors and Florida political players that he is running in 2026. This is the clearest signal yet that his much-expected bid is moving forward. He was at that Republican Party meeting in Orlando. He did sponsor a hospitality suite and told people he was running. In the past week, he has sent an even clearer sign of his intentions in a series of meetings with key lobbyists and political donors. The account of Donald's preparations come from 5 sources familiar with the meetings and his thinking. He was in town, Tallahassee, meeting with all the folks you need to meet with. He told them he is in. This is a source who met with Donald. It's the steps any candidate takes as they prepare to run for governor. And I tell you, John, I like Byron Donalds for governor.
Yeah, I think that he would be a great governor. I think that he would do a great job. I mean, here's what we're looking at right now as potentials. You have Byron Donalds, you have Matt Gaetz, who was also saying that he was looking at it. I think of Byron Donalds, Matt Gaetz is basically a war of the Titans for that seat, which would be pretty interesting. And then you have somebody like the senator from Tampa, as somebody said, Jay Collins. And I see how that would go already. I see how that would play out. They're hoping that splits a vote and that Jay Collins will sneak one in. And I don't think that that's going to happen. I think it's going to be Byron. If Matt Gaetz runs, I think it's going to be one of those two, then the governorship. And, I mean, it's going to be a good place to live.
I'll tell you this. I think for Matt Gaetz, it's going to depend on how comfortable he gets at OAN and in that job that he's doing right now. If he gets very comfortable in that job, he likes doing it. He might not jump in there if Byron Donalds is getting in there. But I like either one of those two. I think they would make fantastic governors for the state of Florida. And I guess we'll have to see. But, I like Byron Donalds. I think Byron Donalds has a little more of an edge than Matt Gaetz, only because with Matt Gaetz, you either love him or you hate him. He's kind of a guy like you, John. That's what people say about you. They either love you or they hate you. But at least that's here in Osceola County. But for Byron Donalds, I think that he's more liked by everybody. You know what I mean? Even though he is a Republican, he is a MAGA Republican, and the left can't stand him, they still seem to have some respect for him, whereas at least a little bit compared to Matt Gaetz, where even other Republicans were trying to shoot.
Yeah. I think that you're right, that it is, Matt Gaetz is like more polarizing, and he does kind of get the same thing. You either love or you hate him. But a race between Byron Donalds and Matt Gaetz and other people becomes a war of bases.
Yes.
Right. And what I think is that Matt Gaetz has a specific base that is, and I'm saying who my preference is. I'm saying I have a preference. I'm not saying who my preference is because I don't want that to impact my analysis. I'm just saying that Matt Gaetz has a base, I think, which might be stronger than Byron Donalds if you're forced to choose.
Yes.
That will be immovable regardless.
Yeah.
So they'd be fighting for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Which you're right, might say, I don't know, Matt Gaetz might be a little too controversial or whatever, but depending on who gets involved and when the attacks start flying and if Democrats get involved, and then if an establishment guy gets in the race, right? Let's say it's Matt Gaetz and Byron Donalds and an establishment guy. Then the establishment guy is going to attack Matt Gaetz and Byron Donalds.
Yeah.
Right? And then that might scare them off. And then when they're scared off, what does that leave them with? It leaves them with their bases intact, right? And then the people who don't care. And that's what makes it, I think, so competitive in this situation.
Oh, I agree. That's nothing to say, like I was saying about, you either love them or hate them. Usually that happens to the people who are the staunchest fighters, the loudest voices, because, people are so sensitive. Days, you know what I mean? But anyway.
Well, the ones that take a position, right? You take a hardcore position, you're loud and clear, then people are like, ooh, that's not my position, right? So, but you've already taken one. So there's kind of no coming back from there. And then the establishment hates people who aren't soft-spined, walking backwards kind of guys.
Yeah.
So
they don't like people who are planted like a tree and they're not going to move. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
That's where that is. Speaking about someone without a spine, John. Unfortunately, at that same meeting that Byron Donalds was at, Evan Power was reelected as the Florida GOP chairman in a decisive vote. And it's really sad. I know there was a lot of MAGA Republicans outside of the Rosen Plaza Hotel on International Drive in Orlando at that meeting. They were outside protesting Evan Power and his possible election as the chairman or re-election as chairman of the Florida GOP. I know that they were out there early in the morning and that every person that was going to that meeting drove in and saw those people out there with the signs. For some reason, he still got voted in. And here's a picture. Oh, by the way, look at that. That is, he looks a little glassy-eyed there, John. No, I don't know. Something funny about that picture. Anyway, yes, he resoundingly won a re-election to lead the state party for another 2 years. This past Saturday was a week ago. Held at the Florida GOP's quarterly meeting at the Rosen Plaza Hotel in Orlando, Power handily defeated Charlotte County GOP Chair Dave Callen in a 183-19 vote. First elected in January 2024 to replace Christian Ziegler, the 43-year-old has helped increase the party's already strong position in the state. I disagree with that statement right there at the end. Everything that happened to increase the party's strong position in the state had to do with President Trump on the ballot, not Evan Power, not this guy right here. This guy right here had zero, zip, nada, nothing to do with it. And by the way, that is his mugshot from when he got arrested for DUI, John.
Yeah, there's this guy. You're right about that. And there's nothing that the GOP, that the Florida RPOF had to do with the numbers increasing the way they did. That was three people were responsible for that. DeSantis, Biden, and Trump. Those were the three people that had to do with making a million more Republicans in Florida. It had nothing to do with Evan Power. It had nothing to do with RPOF. It was in spite of RPOF and all of its effort that happened. And you can see that in the local elections. I mean, look, they were celebrating in Orange County. Look, Orange County, we grew 9%. It had nothing to do with you. It had nothing to do with you. Unfortunately, I mean, they're not bad people in Orange County at the GOP in Orange County. There's no bad people there. But come on, you got to be serious. If it starts raining, right, and you have a cup of water and it gets filled up, you're like, look, I'm Jesus. I just made water. No, it's the rain. It's the rain. It's not you. And that's exactly what happened, where the Republican Party was outside in the rain and they're saying that they caused the storm. No, that's Trump. That's Trump. Trump did that. That's the Trump effect. You can't deny it. If you do, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're blatantly lying. The RPOF had nothing to do with that. And of course he was going to win his elections. But I will say that it was probably a lot closer than it seemed. And that's because they were holding votes in a way that didn't allow people to really, they were being intimidated. So I've talked to a lot of the people in the room, and they were saying that they were being intimidated by the people next to them and so on and so forth. And there was a lot of jostling, and that's why the election was not as close as it should have been or could have been.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't an honest process. Well, and what would you expect? Because they're not having honest elections throughout the state of Florida. So it's just it's a shame, and it's embarrassing for the Republican Party when you have to steal elections locally. And this guy was just elected to the rules committee of the RNC. It's a joke.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Well, when Trump says that the system is rigged, now you know it is rigged. It's all rigged. It's all rigged. It's people with money, lobbyists, special interests working together, greasing each other up. And then rolling around in the mud together. It's not real. It's not dependable. It's not credible. When somebody, and if you've noticed, what is it that it's like you have to be convicted of 20 crimes or accused of 20 crimes in order for you to be involved? It's kind of just a gross situation. And that's how he acts. When you get to where you are by having a lack of integrity, how can anyone be surprised when you show no integrity when you get there? It's a shame. So it's terrible. Helmick is terrible. Power is terrible. They're horrendous leaders. They're destroying the party. And just imagine where we would be if we had good, honest leadership with honor and integrity. We would be a world away. But The same goes for the legislature. Look at the legislature and look how they pick their friends who sit with them. I mean, we saw what essentially is, we saw an engineering and orchestration of the Senate seat in 25 go to the Democrat when she's like they made this powerful Democrat for no reason. And the woman is just, a disgusting personality. She may not be harsh and she may say nice words to your face, but at the same time, the policies that she advocates for are the things that are just offensive to humanity.
And then, John, lack thereof, when you're referring to any help that they gave to any Republicans on the ground here in Florida. There was nothing here in Osceola County. They did nothing to RPOF. Nothing.
And that's two election cycles in a row, because they could have won elections in Osceola.
We could have won
Osceola
with some help from the RPOF. They left us in the dust. They didn't think about us whatsoever. And this man is going up there. Everyone's saying that it had everything to do with the wins we had here in Florida. I want you to think about something. All right, Carolina Amisty's district, District 45, right? Leonard Spencer was the only Democrat that won in that district, that area.
Yeah.
Why? How?
Crazy.
How? Make any sense? Yep. Anyway, Evan Power had zero to do with anything. This man is a walking Porky Pig, and now he's getting all this credit. It's just a joke. Bill Helmick, he looks like Groucho Marx there. I don't get it. Anyway, all right, moving on. We did have another Democrat defection, John. This time it was the Doral Vice Mayor, Maureen Porras. She leaves the Democratic Party and joins the Florida GOP. And she is from Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade flipped red for President Trump. There she is. But she has to shore up a few things, John, because look at her past and some of the things that she has tweeted or shared on X. Here's a couple of examples. In 2021, she retweeted a Miami Herald article. Says, despite court decision, state withholds school board members' pay from Broward. And she says, a glimpse of what a DeSantis presidency would look like. Just another Trump who will also defy court orders and willfully violate separation of powers. Then in 2020, she says, the people supporting Trump right now are no better than the people who helped Chavez, Ortega, and Castro rise to power and stay in power. They need to take a hard look at themselves. Now, what she said, John, as to her reasons for switching to the Republican Party is that she's watched the Democratic Party move further and further towards socialism, and that is her reasoning for coming to. So
there's some credibility to her statements. By the way, she's from Nicaragua. So she gets an extra point. But there's some credibility to her arguments and what she's saying. I can see the logic because I've said the same exact thing, not about Trump, not about DeSantis, but I have about Biden. That Biden is like Hugo Chavez. He's like Nicolas Maduro. He's like Daniel Ortega. He's like any of the Castros. He's like those people because look what he did with just the 28th Amendment, supposedly, right? The 28th Amendment, the fake amendment. The guy writes his own laws and he used the government, weaponize the government against his opponents. That's what they do in Latin America. That's like the name of the game in Latin America, is that you weaponize whatever resources you have against your opponent, whether it's illegal or not, whether it's moral or not. And to see her say that, okay, well, that's great if she just had mentioned Trump's name and had been on the right side. So maybe she came to terms with the truth, with the fact that the government has been weaponized. She switched parties. I imagine, which is what you said in the prep show, I agree with you, that it has more to do with the outlook of the partisan split in Doral than it does the her political ideology. Yeah. You know, although how can you right, like we said all along, like I just said just a minute ago, Biden is the reason that people are switching parties.
Yeah.
right? Allowed the people in the party to destroy the Democratic Party, but turn it into a madhouse. So, I mean, why would I be surprised? Why would I mean, that people are leaving, I'm not surprised. And yeah, maybe she was trying to be a team player. I don't know. We'll see. We'll learn more. But that's now a handful of these Democrats who have switched parties, right? We've had now a vice mayor. We had 2 state reps, I think. We have people from all over the state just switching parties, leaving the Democrats. And that's because ideologically the state is super red, and the legislature is not nearly as red, unfortunately. But I think that that's why they are. It is a consequence. Like we saw in Osceola County that everybody switched to Democrat because they couldn't win. Right? Katrina Scarborough switched from Republican to Democrat so that she could win her seat 16 years ago or so. Right? At least that's what I hear. I don't know for a fact or reasons.
Yeah.
But and a lot of them have. Julius Melendez switched parties because he couldn't win as a Republican, right? And he's got no moral compass or ideological compass at all. He doesn't care. So I mean, I don't know. I wonder about her. I hope that she's a good addition. I hope that all these Democrats that they're adding are good additions. I don't know that they're anything more than distractions from the core Republican beliefs, and they're trying to, if you can imagine, trying to water down the Republican Party, which is already watered down enough. It's essentially at this point, it's like water with a lemon seed in it. It's not even lemonade.
Yeah, we do not need to water down this Republican Party or make it a lavender Republican Party because we already have too many rhinos as it is. Don't need any more. So I'm hoping that it is.
And look what happened in Texas.
Yeah.
Right, look what happened right now in what is it, North Carolina or South Carolina? I think it's North Carolina, right? Or in Georgia, where they prevented a senator from coming into the House because he's a MAGA guy, and they prevented him from coming in and doing his thing. I mean, that was incredible that they did that. This guy's getting thrown to the ground. They won't let him in the chamber. Of course, he knew what was going on and he knew what he was doing. But at the same time, I mean, the circus that they're causing because they don't want truly conservative people. And then you go to Texas and they elected a Democrat as Speaker of the House. You know, I don't know if that completely went through or not. But I mean, it's just crazy what's going on. And with Florida, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine, but it's completely possible. We have a supermajority in the House and the Senate, and they have not accomplished what the Floridians have expected, all right, them to accomplish to date.
Let's hope they do this session, because if they don't, they're giving another opening to the Democrats. That's all it is. You know, you're giving them
I think they're okay with that.
You're
I think
throwing
that's
them
fair.
a lifeline, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think you're right.
I think they want to
they're
do
okay
that.
with that.
They want to do that because they don't want the responsibility and accountability of having a supermajority to the degree that they do.
Imagine it's well, John, one Democrat is in some serious hot water right now. That is Representative Sheila Sherfulis McCormick, who's coming under the spotlight in a $5.7 million lawsuit. Here's the story.
If the government puts a decimal point in the wrong place and overpays you by $5 million, what would you do with it? In the case of one Florida business, it may have been cashing the check and loaning money to help their CEO get elected to Congress, a decision which left them in trouble with the law. Florida is suing healthcare services company Trinity Healthcare Services, which the state paid to register people for COVID-19 vaccinations. Except instead of paying the planned amount of $50,578.50, Florida paid them $5,078,500. And now the state wants the money back, alleging the company took the money despite knowing it was an overpayment. But the money may help explain a years-long mystery about how a congresswoman's ethical report showed a massive jump in funding from 2020 to 2021. Reporter Jacob Rabashkin with the nonpartisan newsletter Inside Elections noted Trinity's then CEO, Sheila Sherfulis McCormick, loaned herself $6.2 million to fund a congressional campaign. Sherfulis McCormick has served as a Democratic member of the House since 2022. In the case against Trinity, the state is asking for the company to cover state costs, including damages and attorney's fees. The company did not comment to a USA Today affiliate in Tallahassee when they broke the news about the lawsuit. Sheriff Alyssa McCormick faces a separate, unrelated investigation by the House's Independent Office of Congressional Ethics, which is looking at whether she failed to report possibly illegal payments to a political action committee and other possible misuses of campaign funds.
Wow. I don't even know what to say to that, John.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I mean, this is the stuff that they do. This reminds me of that movie with Eddie Murphy. I think it was called Distinguished Gentleman or something like that, where somebody dies, he's got the same name, so he runs for Congress under the same name, and they, under a different party or whatever. It's just crazy. This is typical Democrat politics. Typical, very typical.
Wow. Well, moving on from there, John. This is an incredible story right here. And the numbers here are incredible too. This ex-Duval Teachers Union head, who was making a whopping $250,000 a year, is indicted on federal fraud charges. Watch this.
Two former teachers union leaders are accused of defrauding the union of almost $2.5 million in vacation time. Terry Brady and Ruby George were the former president and executive vice president of Duval Teachers United for more than 2 decades.
They are indicted on fraud and conspiracy charges following a September 2023 raid of the union headquarters. They retired weeks after the raid. Court records show from 2013 until 2022, Brady and George falsified their leave of balance and sold the time back as unused vacation, claiming more than $1 million.
This is something that I've said before. I understand the need for unions, but there's also a very big problem going on or within many of these unions. When you have a union head that's making $250,000 a year, that's a big problem, John. Problem.
Oh my gosh, man! I'm not necessarily offended by the union president making $250, but like they make it so good that how can they represent the union when they no longer have any idea how the union members are living? Yeah. I mean, if I were a union member, I would be like, why is this guy making $1 million a year? Then let's just all run for a union president. I mean, that's it. That's like the golden pot at the end of the rainbow. Just try to be union president. Forget teaching. I don't want to teach. Teaching sucks. I'll just run to be the union president until I win. Right? I'll just go be a union member. And it's just these. And then, I mean, the fraud, it goes. I'm not surprised by that. But you know what is funny? Speaking of this, I was watching on the Florida channel the ethics committee. And they talked about the issues that the ethics committee needs. And it was Tina Deskovich, who's the vice chairman of that ethics committee. And she's one of the co-founders of Moms for Liberty. And it's just interesting that the things that they're asking for. Let me tell you what I would have asked for if I were that person. I would have asked for a strengthening of the conflict of interest laws. Right, that's would have been the number one thing, because it's the number one reason that that the state is failing is conflict of interest. So I mean, that would be a great place to start. That's what they should be asking for. Because if those laws are strengthened, it may seem unrelated, but if the conflict of interest and the ethical laws in Florida for people who hold fiduciary responsibility or a elected position or an appointed position or anything like that is harder, then people will get caught and get in trouble and so on, and it will be better. I think the problem is that the ethical standards of Florida are so low that it doesn't matter what you do. You're always going to be you're going to be fine. There's not going to be any consequence. I think that there was a school board member in Osceola County who got charged like $25,000 or something like that. And I don't think that he ever paid it back, or, like he paid it back by asking people to pay, or, something, something or other. But it was like, I was like, wow, that actually came down on him for something. and it was just, but he still, nothing really came of it. And they help each other. And $25,000 for the people who pull the strings is nothing. So
I just think about what a teacher makes on average. And then I read this story, and that the teachers union head is making
selling millions of dollars worth of vacation.
Yeah, and then selling millions of dollars worth of vacation. It's just like, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And it's like you said, why be a teacher? You can run for the teachers union president, and you make $250,000. I mean, just ridiculous. People start waking up to something.
I don't think that there's a single teacher that makes $250,000.
No,
in the state of Florida.
Not one in the state of Florida. No, not. I don't think anywhere in the United States, but maybe at one of these
I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe at one of
the
private schools, but close. Anyway, here we go again, John. Central Florida leaders are working towards the next phase of Sunrail. This is Buddy Dyer's baby. Here we go.
Sunrail could look like.
There has been interest for years in what's called the Sunshine Corridor, which would connect the Orlando International Airport to the attractions areas like International Drive, the Orange County Convention Center, and even Disney Springs.
Spectrum News 13's Osceola joins us live now from Orlando International Airport. And Marcel, where do things stand right now with the plans? We know they've been talking about this for years, but where do things stand at this point in time?
Tammy and Curtis, right now, funding is needed to do a study that could open up some avenues in the future for federal grants. Now, Orlando City Mayor Buddy Dyer is a big proponent of the Sunshine Corridor, and he says if they get to expand Sunrail all the way here to the airport, that could triple ridership. In May of 2024, Sunrail celebrated its 10-year anniversary, with trains running 61 miles across 17 stations to and from the land. The original vision for the commuter rail line has been fulfilled. Now leaders are working towards the next phase for Sunrail, a plan known as the Sunshine Corridor.
It was never envisioned that the 61 miles that we've created would be the end of it. It's actually just the beginning of it. We want to create a spine where we could then access other points within the community, and the obvious most important one is to go from the original 61-mile route to the airport.
The Sunshine Corridor will be an east-west expansion of Sunrail. It would connect the Orlando International Airport to the Orange County Convention Center, International Drive, and Disney Springs. The next step in the process is to complete a project development and environmental study. The study is needed in order to qualify for federal funding.
I think everybody recognizes that we eventually need to have Sunrail going to the airport, and it really ought to be sooner than later. There's money available through FTA. And we need to get in that process, and in order to do that, we need to do the study that we're talking about.
The estimated cost for the study is $6 million. The Florida Department of Transportation has committed $2 million towards the PD&E. It will be up to the local partners to come up with the remaining $4 million.
So at this point, City of Orlando is committed to $500,000.
We requested information from Orange County government in terms of how much they will be contributing to the Sunshine Corridor. In an email, they said, quote, Mayor Demings and the Board of County Commissioners have expressed support for the Sunshine Corridor. We'll be bringing an agenda item to the BCC in the near future to determine Orange County's portion of the local funding contribution, end quote. Mayor Dyer says taking Sunrail to the airport will also address one of the biggest issues they face, parking. The next Sunrail board meeting is scheduled for January 23rd at 2 p.m. The agenda for that meeting has not been published yet. Live in Orange.
All right, so what they neglected to tell you in this news is that Sunrail still hasn't paid for itself. And that's what it was supposed to do. We talked about this, John. I think it was sometime last year on the Florida show. We were talking about the fact that Sunrail still hasn't paid for itself after its 10-year anniversary. What Buddy Dyer is saying now is that if we extend the Sunrail and spend millions of dollars, well, first $6 million for the study, and then millions more dollars we will be able to go to the airport, and that will make it pay for itself. Which, if you've been running this thing for 10 years now, not paying for itself, not going to start paying for itself. Ridership is down. It's going to continue to be down. You're not going to have people vacationing here from Disney, going to Disney World, spending all that money to go to a Disney vacation, because that's not cheap anymore. And they're going to be walking with their suitcases around on the sidewalks, going to the Sunrail station to get on the Sunrail. That's not realistic.
Yeah, I think that's if this was, which we talked about in the prep, if this was going to be what makes Sunrail profitable or even break even, then why didn't they do that leg first?
Yes, it was that important.
You would think that they would have put the leg that was going to. Yeah, if that was their dream, that's what they should have done. And of course, a train to the airport's a good idea, but I guess, they had tracks in place, they did whatever, but over the past 10 years, all they did was prove themselves wrong. And the burden is going to now be on us, local. And what happens? I mean, it's never going to pay for itself. We're just going to continue to have this growing burden put on top of our shoulders. And I don't want to be carrying that yoke around. So the question is, if you're going to have an airport, let's say that you're wrong, and people are dying. Oh, what? They have a train from the airport to Disney? Let's fly to the airport, get on a train, go to Disney World. Okay, fine. If that's the case, then why aren't we using the tourism dollars for that? Right? They have the multi-million-dollar tourism dollars that they use specifically for tourism, and it could probably pay for this, or at least contribute strongly to this project, because that's who's getting it, right? Why doesn't Disney have to pay half of the bill if they're going to do it from Disney World to the airport? No. I mean, why would John Arguello, I don't even like Disney, I have to pay for a rail system that goes from the airport to Disney? Why does Tom, Dick, and Harry, why do they have to pay for this train to take a tourist from there? Why aren't the tourists, and why aren't Disney paying for it? Yeah. And that's not an argument that's new. I'm just saying that they told us that it was going to pay for itself. 10 years have gone by. It doesn't pay for itself. They've proven themselves wrong, and now they're talking about expanding it. Now, I like the Sunrail. I have taken the Sunrail 3 times, I think. Okay. One time was to a Trump rally.
3 times in 10 years. All right.
3 times in 10 years. I went once to a Trump rally, right? From there to downtown. I had to find my own way back because it closes at 9. So who the heck goes to downtown Orlando and then wants to be home by 9 o'clock? Right. So that was one bad thing. Like I said, I like it. 2, I took my kids across town because my son and my daughter, when they were smaller, a couple years ago, I wanted to take them on the train so they could see the train. Right. Oh, cool. The train. So we just went up for the ride and paid for the ride to go back and forth on the train. Nothing special, but cool. They loved it. We had lunch in Winter Park. Winter Park is beautiful. We had lunch in Winter Park, came back. And then the 3rd time, I can't even remember. I think I took it somewhere for something or whatever. I don't know. But I think it was with my wife to go do the same thing, go have lunch somewhere or something. But the point is, it's a novelty.
Yes.
And who wants to pay $1 billion for novelty? That, not the taxpayer. I mean, if we used to live in a country where an entrepreneur would pay to do something, and then people would come and pay for it, and that would be the business model. Now it's let the public pay for my project, and if it makes money, great. And let's say it's not a private industry, I'll be the bureaucracy of the rail system, or the worst. And I mean, I'm going to mention the devil's name. Everybody be careful, okay? Because if you're listening to this, make sure you cover your ears so you don't hear this. And I'm not suicidal, or I'm not stealing any money from anybody, and nothing of that's going on. Okay. But CFX, the toll roads. Okay. The biggest boogeyman in the state of Florida, CFX. We are paying now to drive across the street. There's you have Osceola Parkway. There's people that live on Osceola Parkway that have to pay a toll to get home. You live on a toll road. I mean, this is not what the end behind toll roads was. You paid for the road and then good, right? It's all done. Now we're paying for toll roads. They want that to be the new normal.
Yeah.
That you pay to drive. So, I mean, I don't know why the public is not up in arms over this. I guess it's because we have a Republican state for the most part, and you have Republican administrations for the most part. I mean, but I think that the Floridians need to rise up against organizations like this that try to put the burden on you to make them profitable, and also that people can be rich. Brandon Arrington's the chair. I don't know if he's still the chair, but he's the chair. So the most corrupt politician, in my opinion, certainly in Osceola County, but probably one of the top in Florida, is the chairman of the toll roads. Can you say, like, it's like an evil sandwich? Evil, 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 evil there. It's like an evil club sandwich. I mean, it's crazy.
I don't get it. I'll tell you this, John. I've ridden the Sunrail 0 times in 10 years. It is a novelty, just like you said. No one is riding this on a regular basis that I know of, and I'm sure there's more people like me that have rode it 0 times in 10 years than aren't. And of course, it's just another waste of the taxpayer dollars. But we know that the people living in Orange County, the majority of them, because they continue to vote blue, they're going to go along with whatever Jerry Demings and Buddy Dyer say. They're going to, they say it's a great thing. It must be a great thing because they're Democrats, right? So, but
Democrats love to pay for stuff. They just don't like to
with other people's
They just
money.
don't like to use their own money.
Yeah, that's right. They don't want to use their own money. They were looking at federal tax dollars to pay for this $6 million study. So, yeah, they have no interest in paying for it themselves. Yeah, they're going to kick in $2 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think that these, if I had made it to the Senate, first of all, I would have been the most hated senator within the Senate in Tallahassee.
Yes,
but I would have probably CFX would have been miserable. Sunrail would have been miserable. I just all these municipalities that are saving money, and then spending. I'll tell you what, Carolina Amnesty got into trouble. Did we already talk about the Carolina Amnesty story yet?
We're getting there, though. Almost there.
So, when we talk about that, and they talk about all those COVID problems, right? The way that people spent COVID and so on. Look at how our county commissioners, look at how your county commissioners are spending money. We have a county commissioner who's spending $250,000 to erect a 50-foot gay statue. Okay, a gay pride statue in the shape of a fish. So imagine all the things that had to go on.
In the shape of the Jesus
Number
fish.
one,
let's call it what it is, John. It's the Jesus fish.
Yeah. It's in the shape of a Jesus fish. It's a rainbow colored statue, 50-foot tall, in a public park. Okay, and I don't care about what it connotates or none of that stuff. That's not the issue. The issue is that you have somebody taking COVID money and putting up a statue for her own, to honor her own sexual preference. Okay, it's crazy. That's the country, that's the state that we're in, that a county commissioner can take $250,000 of our taxpayer money to go erect a statue honoring her own sexual preference. That would be like me if I got elected to the Senate and I appropriate $500,000 and I erect a statue in a public park of my wife. I mean, is that not crazy? Can you imagine? I take your money. Imagine I come to your house and I just ask you for money. And I say, I'm going to erect a statue in the silhouette of a beautiful woman. And they're going to be like, oh, what woman? Who? Just a random, just a body. I love the female form and I want you to contribute. In fact, I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to force you to contribute to this fund where we're going to pay for it. And I don't want to. I don't give a damn whether I want to or not. Give me that money. I'm going to put it in there. Boom. There's your share. Thank you very much. I'm going to go to your neighbor's house. And now here I am. I'm going to erect a statue in the shape of a woman's silhouette. It's preposterous. But we let our county commissioner do that. And that you think, I mean, she might be one of the most corrupt. But the fact is, she's doing that here in Osceola County, and people are allowing her to do. The county commissioners. Well, we have two people who on the county. We have at least one person who has an IQ under 100, right? Ricky Booth. And what does he know? He doesn't know anything, right? But all the rest of them, I don't even know. I can't even say. I can't even protect them. I mean, it's just craziness. It's just craziness.
It is. It truly is.
It's just they allow her to do that. So they allow you to pay for the toll roads. They're raping and pillaging their own county. These county commissioners, and that's what Buddy Dyer is doing, although in a far less obscene, exaggerated way, by being a proponent of Sunrail, because there's no plan. In the story that we saw, they didn't mention funding once. And that's how you know it's not good. Otherwise, they would have said it's paying for itself. Or this thing has worked like gangbusters and you guys are not paying a dime. No, it's not that way.
But talking about an outrageous story, John, here is one right here. Owner of Orlando's Southern Nights LGBTQ plus bar indicted on child pornography charges. Here's the story.
Meantime, we're following breaking news. A grand jury has indicted the owner of an LGBTQ plus club and a second person on several sex charges, including possession of child pornography.
Richard Kowalczyk and Eric Patrick are both named in this indictment. According to court documents, investigators say both men conspired to entice a minor to have sex and exchange sexual images of people they met on the app Grindr. Now, the documents say references were made to indicate some of those people were under the age of 18. According to the indictment, several electronic devices were seized, including 2 cell phones and a desktop computer. We did get a statement from the two men's attorney saying they have pled not guilty and trust in the legal system to prove them right.
I love at the end they say that they're not
guilty.
We're not guilty, and the legal system's going to prove us right. But they seized your cell phones, they seized your laptops, they have all the evidence. You're done. You're done.
I mean, yeah, for sure. If they, first of all, this is disgusting. This is just the worst part of our world. Crimes against kids. We've already seen it 100 times. This is not a gender or a sexual identity or preference issue. This is an issue, just a lack of humanity. Nobody treats their kids like this. It's terrifying. It's horrible. And really, we need to increase the level of punishment for people who are convicted of this type of crime.
Yes.
And I'm completely with Trump. And you remember, I'm a convert from for anti-death penalty guy to when you talk about crimes against children, you know, I can't object to it. I can't object to it. It's the worst kind of evil. And I you know, like those two guys who were adopting kids and then basically pimping their kids out. Yeah. That's horrifying. Yeah. It's the stuff of nightmares. I mean, it's barbaric. And you know what? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you where that begins, in my opinion. That begins with people's okay with abortion. Because if you're okay killing a child, you're pretty much okay doing anything you want to a child. All right. It's just a matter of being able to exert your power. And that's exactly what our county commissioners and elected leaders are proponents of and what they represent. In Osceola County, they are exerters of power over the people of Osceola County. And there's a lot of our politicians like that throughout the state that they exert the power. That's what they can do.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about for them.
Absolutely.
I hope these guys go to jail and then go to hell.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned Osceola County, John. And as the stories have winded down, we're getting closer to home. So let's take it home. Let's go to Osceola County.
Come on, guys.
All right. So this is an unfortunate story, John, and I know we're going to have a long discussion about this, but here we go. Former Florida Representative Carolina Amnesty accused of COVID-19 relief fraud. Federal complaint says, let's watch this.
Representative Carolina Amnesty is accused of stealing money through COVID relief funds. According to a criminal complaint, Amnesty is accused of illegally obtaining $122,000 of money she requested for two of her organizations. She's also accused of sending that money to family members and other organizations. Just last month, charges were dropped against her after she was accused of forgery.
All right, so John, you know, it's like they said, Bain had dropped the prior charges against Carolina Amnesty, and they said it was a mistaken signature on a piece of paper. Okay, stupid stuff, right? Now they're coming at her with this COVID-19 relief fraud. It seems to me that they do not want Carolina Amnesty running again or want her back, John.
I think that, they are coming after Carolina Amnesty very hard. They're ferociously coming after her. I know what that's like. I just have never done something like that to get in trouble. If I literally anything that I've ever done, I'm sure that they have looked into it, trying to kill me over it.
Well, yeah, John.
I feel bad.
We know what they did to you last election cycle. They dug up everything that they could find. Wasn't much. But they tried, especially
they lied too,
Mr.
you know,
Pedicini, to take you down with the.
Yeah, I mean, and if they can't find something, then they'll lie. This is the state of politics, you know, everywhere in the United States, where basically you're allowed to lie and get away with it, especially if it's sanctioned by the party or by leadership or things like that, and exaggerate, you know, come after you if you don't do what you're told. And once you get in, if you don't do what you're told, apparently it's even worse. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any of the facts of this situation, this case. I just feel bad for her because she's somebody who had strong convictions, tried to do the right thing, and not everybody crosses their T's and dots their I's. And you know, and that's the problem when you're fighting against the establishment. They're looking for those lapses in order to come after you. So I wish her well. I know that she always meant well. I know that she fought hard. She cares about this country. She loves the people of the United States. And so, I mean, I wish her well. I'll be praying for her.
Well, it's like I said, John. In her district, she was the only Republican to lose. Leonard Spencer was the only Democrat to get elected in that district. Very, very odd. I don't care what she was facing at the time.
Yeah.
Carolina Amnesty, like you said, when these state representatives go up there to Tallahassee, they have aides and people who do things for them. Now, I don't know the exact details of what's going on here, but it was awful funny to me that she lost this race, which didn't make any sense, you know, when you look at the numbers and you look at the district itself. She should have never lost that race. And now this story comes out. There seems like someone's trying to bury her. And wouldn't you know that this story popped up right before this last story, which is Aaron Huntley, who is the Orange County REC chair, files to run in HD 45 against Leonard Spencer, the only House Democrat in a district won by Donald Trump. I find it quite odd that Aaron Huntley, and here she is, that she filed, and then this story came out, John.
I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised. I think that Erin Huntley had decided to run the moment that she became the chair of the Orange GOP, Orange County GOP. I think that she knew that she was going to run, and that was the seat. That's where she lives. And, you know, and especially, and if it didn't happen at that moment, the moment that Carolina Amnesty got into a little bit of trouble, you know, she was gunning for that seat. I mean, she knew she was going to run. She's been so friendly with Evan Power. She's kissing Evan Power's butt big time. You see pictures of her, Evan Power. She, you know, she used to be an FRA person, but she didn't get kicked out of the party. Her Orange County people, none of them were kicked out of the party for being members of the FRA. The FRA had actually taken over the Orange County GOP, but none of them got kicked out. They didn't win any elections in Orange County. They didn't win any elections. They didn't win the Austin Arthur, one of the best candidates for a county commission seat of all time. This guy was great. This guy was great. This guy was endorsed by every single person who lived in that district. He was a super nice guy, never got in trouble. He well funded. He raised just a heck of a lot of money. He did everything right. He worked tirelessly. He was up and down everywhere, and he didn't win. So then you have, I mean, you have a whole bunch of people that were running as Republicans, and they didn't win anything. So she was the chair, but they're talking about that because they increased to 9% in registration. I mean, what? They lost the competitive races. Their school board seats are nonpartisan. They didn't win those races. Gowdy didn't win. He's another great candidate for school board. And great guy. Everything the same. Everything, Austin Arthur, the same thing. These two guys, they had great candidates in Orange, and they still didn't win. I think that she was focused on building a relationship with the party so that the party would support her in this run instead of trying to win that
right there, John, because I'll tell you this. I went to myself and Angelica McKinney, and I'm sorry to call you out on the show, Angelica. I know you're watching right now. We went to the local REC Faith, Family, and Freedom Luncheon last year. And Erin Huntley was there, and so was Evan Power. I tell you, John, you could not pry her away from Evan Power. Literally could not pry her away from Evan Power. And Cindy Trouts was going around with a sign that says, "I stand with Jim." As you know, her husband was running for supervisor of elections here in Osceola County. She was trying to get everybody in there to take pictures with the sign that says, "I stand with Jim." Erin Huntley refused. All right. But she wasn't the only one. Evan Power refused. So we have the chair of the RPOF knows that there is a Republican running for supervisor of elections.
Wow.
We know we have a corrupt Democrat that's been in that seat for 16 years. And
not
Evan
just
Power,
corrupt.
The chairman
A supervisor of elections who violated state statute, election law, two election cycles in a row.
2 election cycles. And the chairman of the RPOF would not stand with the America First principled Republican that was running for the supervisor of elections.
Oh, well, you just messed it up. You said America First.
Yeah. Well, that's why. That's why.
Hey, by the way, let me take a quick break and just say, first of all, thank you everyone who's watching. We have right now, my Twitter is locked because I have a whole bunch of haters that are constantly complaining about my commentary on Twitter and stuff and whatever. And it's basically the same group. The same people that we're talking about on this show who are part of the leadership are the people that continue to report my X account, whatever. No big deal. But if my X account were live, this would be the most watched show we've ever had. I just wanted to note that. So, but continue.
Awesome.
Sorry, Tom.
No.
Sorry.
And that tells you right there that they had no interest in seeing any change here in Osceola County, especially when it came to that supervisor of elections office. You have Cord Bird coming down and doing a video with her, knowing that he had to cite her for her issues in the last 2 election cycles, coming down and doing this soft-hearted video to promote how safe and fair the elections here are. But
crazy.
Yeah, we have the
I've seen
chair
that
of
for
the
2 months,
RPOF
but it's mind-boggling.
refusing to take a picture with the Jim Trout sign, and we have the chair of the Orange County REC refusing to take a picture with the I Stand With Jim sign. It's just that tells you right there where they stand, where they are, and
well, here's the thing. I have a lot of friends in Orange County who are good. These are good conservatives, MAGA Republicans, and they have spoken up for her. They stand up for her. And so you got to be fair. She has a lot of support in Orange County. There's a lot of people that love her. They think that she's done great for the job. But I'm like an all actions guy.
Yeah.
Right? Did you lose me?
No, I hear you. You hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
So I'm like an action guy. To me about your character. And here's my observation. And I know that there's people, even the people that I mentioned. Okay, one of the best candidates, one of my favorite candidates of all time, Scotty Moore. Okay, my favorite candidate because I know this guy he's a Christ first guy.
Quality
he is a
human
good
being.
guy. He's a sweetheart of a guy. I wish I had personality. There, like after my race, I told him, man, these are some of the things I was thinking. And a lot of times I would consult with him and talk with him and whatever. He's a good person, right? Very good person. And when he was running for District 35 against Erica Booth, he is good friends with Aaron Huntley, right? And he stands up for her to this day, at least the last time I spoke with him. Anyways, I was the one complaining, not him. And in my complaint, I was stating that they're calling voters to participate in a primary who have never voted in a primary. They're bringing in people who are only going to vote based on the $2 million ad expenditures that the party made on her behalf. So why is the party doing that? Why would a MAGA party do that? Why would they send volunteers to go call to bring in Erica Booth voters? Why would you do that? But that's what they did. They had two people. They had a super effective system. She's a great organizer, facilitator for her organization, leader of the organization. Ideologically, though, or integrity was one or the other. I don't jive. There's something wrong there. In my opinion, my observations, she was boom, right power, looking for her way to get into government, to become an elected official. That was my opinion. Nice lady, very composed, talented, but at the same time, I support her. I haven't talked with her since. Here's another thing. This person, I forget. Okay, this was annoying. You know me, Tom. Okay, I'm not a person even when I was elected, I'm not somebody who needs to be honored or I'm not somebody that needs to be recognized in any way, shape, or form. I'm not that type. So at the last Abraham Lincoln, the last Lincoln Day dinner, okay, I'm running for state senate. I paid for an ad. I paid for a table. I paid for all this stuff, whatever, with a lot of other people and whatever, okay? When they mentioned all elected officials, even people who were past elected officials, they left me out. This is prior to the primary. So now I don't care about being honored. I know that's stupid and petty, and I feel stupid and petty for saying it. But the only reason I even mention it and care is because I'm running. I'm running, and this is a room full of Republicans. It's a room full of donors, and you don't let these people know that I just paid for an ad and that I'm an elected official? But you mentioned people like this guy's Soil and Water. That guy over there is an HOA president. That person over there, so that person was the dog catcher in 1933. But the current school board member, the only Republican and only conservative school board member right now, fighting like hell in Osceola County by himself without any other elected Republicans or conservatives in the county, is sitting right over there. Okay, that's all I'm saying. But she didn't mention my name.
No,
and
that doesn't surprise
I was like,
me.
Man,
that doesn't surprise me because, like you said,
No.
John, she was trying to make her ends with the party. She was trying to make her ends with the party. Now, I have heard from people,
That's what that was
and
intentional.
I've seen people defending her too. I've seen people saying she's a great lady, great organizer. But you know what, John? You can be the greatest organizer in the world, but if you're not getting results, you're losing. Terrible. And
I mean, if you don't have the honesty and the integrity to fulfill the will of the people of your voters in your district, that's what I care about.
So
I mean, it's just results. I mean, you could let's say that you're not good at your job, but they believe in you and you tried. Okay, that's one step above you not caring what your voters want. And I'm pretty sure that if I also asked for an endorsement from the party, which I'm not allowed to give, but they can under certain sections. I asked for a Section 8 and they tried to avoid it. They tried to avoid it because I know I would have won. I would have won Section 8 there. I would have won Section 8 at the party here in Osceola, but they refused to do that for me because they were putting their thumbs on the scale. That lack of integrity, I'll never trust anybody who doesn't have integrity. You cannot mess with the left.
You know, I had no issue with Erin Huntley until that Faith, Freedom, and Family Luncheon and her refusal to take a picture with Jim Trout's sign and the fact that she could not peel herself away from Evan Power. I mean, literally, her and George Jackow.
I mean, there was no primary. He was running against a Democrat.
Yeah. Her and George Jackow were literally stuck like glue to this man. You could not pull them away. And, Jim Trout was the only Republican in that race. There was no primary. It was him versus her. It's an easy decision for any Republican, right? But not for those two. And that's a problem.
And here's the thing. And she's friendly with people who are dirtbags, but she won't be friendly with Jim Trout, who's like a man of integrity who served his country. And, you know, I mean, it's despicable.
All right, John. So let's move on. This is our final story for the night. We don't have a lot for Osceola this week, but this one here, it's about the law against sleeping in public. Well, Osceola County is in line with that Florida law, but it is reluctantly, John. And so is Orange County. That's a little bit of what's in this video. Here it is.
New state law that bans people from sleeping on the streets.
Fox 35's Manny Martinez is live in Orange County tonight. So, Manny, Orange County, along with the city of Kissimmee, now taking action to protect themselves against lawsuits.
And Marlisa, these updates to their city ordinances, they are reactive to that state law, but also proactive to any of those potential lawsuits. And those suits, they could come from residents or business owners if they feel the local governments are not doing their job with enforcement.
This is not a short-term type of situation that we are dealing with. This is long-term.
After months of back and forth, Orange County now has its own ban on overnight sleeping and camping on public property. County leaders emphasize the ban is not a ploy to fill the jail. The ordinance calls arrests a measure of last resort.
This is not incarceration. This is the ability to give law enforcement the ability to be legally just in their actions.
People in violation can be tagged with misdemeanors, fined up to $500, and jailed for as many as 60 days.
I'm begging you, just look at the methods to navigate this state law with compassion and rehabilitation and true justice for all.
Don't vote on this. Don't do it. Invite the legal challenge.
Commissioners voted 4-2 to approve the update. District 5 Commissioner Kelly Semrad was one of the no votes.
I cannot vote for something that complies with what I look at is really cruel and unusual punishment when people have nowhere else to go.
20 miles south and less than an hour later.
One motion carries 4-1.
Kissimmee City Commissioners finalized their city's camping ordinance. It spells out $50 fines for a first offense, and it could total at least $900 if someone is found in violation at least 4 times within a year.
What this ordinance does is establishes those penalties to give the tools to law enforcement to be able to enforce that law.
And important to point out here that the city of Kissimmee, as well as the Orange County Sheriff's Office, they have...
All right, so anyway, move away from that, and we're going to get to a little bit more discussion on that. But yes, St. Cloud City Council also passed its version of HB 1365 at their December 12th meeting with Deputy Mayor Sean Fletcher, reiterating that the ordinance was not something the city wanted or chose to draft. This was something that they had to do because of the state law. And St. Cloud Police Chief Doug Gerke said his department has come up with a pamphlet of resources and a QR code it will share with those who are unhoused.
Unhoused. Huh?
You know, I just love some of these things, like a $50 fine is the first fine, $100 second fine. If these people are living in the streets, how are they going to pay these fines, John? I wonder. You know.
Listen, this is stupid. Orange County fine. What was the fees there? It was so expensive. I mean, that's so stupid. How can you charge homeless people $500 in a fine for doing something that they what are they supposed to do? Now, listen. I laugh at all the commissioners, council members, whatever, who are like, oh, I don't want to do the state thing. Dude, you didn't solve the homeless problem in your communities. This is what's going to happen. What DeSantis is doing is trying to prevent Seattle or Los Angeles or San Francisco.
Yes.
Right? So you can't, the law is good. The law is good. Now it's up to all of you. It's up to your communities to start resolving all of these homelessness problems. That's a much easier said than done. But they spend millions and millions of dollars on homelessness issues, but they don't resolve anything. And you got to wonder why. It's all a whole bunch of people getting big fat paychecks, 6-figure incomes, and homeless people still in the same place. Listen, a mental health crisis is not going to be resolved by a homelessness program.
Bingo.
And so, a drug addiction is not going to be solved by a homelessness problem. You at some point, we need to be honest about what the situation is. We need to look at what's missing. And this is a tough situation. And I don't really feel bad for these county commissioners. This is what they ran for, or council members or whatever. This is what you ran for. Start resolving problems. Pretend you're Trump for a few minutes. Start resolving problems. Even if it doesn't work, whatever you propose doesn't work the first time, think big. Think Greenland. So think big, resolve the problem. Let's go.
Yeah. And I'll just say this, John. I've said this a million times on this show and on the other show. We have a mental health crisis in the United States of America, and we keep ignoring it and keep ignoring it. And the problem persists, and it gets worse and worse and worse. Right now, a lot of these homeless people, either, like you said, have a mental health issue, they have a drug addiction, or some type of issue where they just don't want to work. And that's the truth. It's not because of lack of trying or lack of a job, because God knows our economy here in Central Florida, there are jobs. Do they pay well, all of them? No, not exactly. They don't. But sometimes you have to work 2 jobs. But the point of that is to work your way up. You don't just stay as the burger flipper.
Here's another issue.
You become the manager. Work towards being the manager. You don't stay a burger flipper. That's just my...
You're 100% right. And you know what? You just brought us into one of the problems that we started the show with, which is immigration. But you bring in all these illegal immigrants, you give them temporary working things, they're going to be happy to flip burgers for $5 an hour. And now the homeless person can't even do that. This is the problem. The kids, all elderly people, whatever, listen, our country has been going in the wrong direction for so long that all of the problems are like frothing over now, right? It's spilling over the edge of the glass. Mental health, drug addiction, the economy going backwards, where you have income is not nearly up with costs, right? You have all of these issues, the crisis of insurance, all these different issues. They're all coming to a head now together because what hasn't hit, thank God, is the student loan crisis.
No.
That's the people have. There's more student loan than there is credit card debt, and those people are going to default on their loans because the economy doesn't have jobs for them, And instead of even a regular job so they can feed themselves, they're giving it to illegal immigrants. I mean, all of these problems are intersecting. That's how bad it is that they've become a web. And, lobbyists are the ones who are they're the think tanks that are pushing hard for legislation that benefits them and their special interest. And you can't have a country that's run like that. You have to have a country that can benefit a lobbyist and their organization, but at the same time not cause damage. That has to be the number one priority in all the laws and regulations that are written in the United States. They cannot cause damage to the American family. That has to be a clear and concise mission and priority. The American family is priority one in everything that the government does. And if we do that, some of these issues will begin to fall away. Yes. Or be resolved. At least you hope. So I think that was a great point, Tom.
Thank you. This is the bottom line though on it. The homeless issue isn't going to go away because you fine it. Give a $50 fine, $100 fine, up to $900. That's not gonna solve this problem. It's not gonna make it go away. Right? You have to figure out why these people are homeless. And it's gonna be one of those issues that I talked about. It's gonna be one of those issues. That's where you take action from there. And until they start doing something like that, this isn't going to go away. And yes, Governor DeSantis is trying to prevent California. He's trying to prevent New York. He's trying to prevent what's happening in those blue states, where especially California, where you have tent cities, in places that they shouldn't be. We don't want that here. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to see the panhandler. Nobody wants to go up to a store and there's somebody out there begging for your money.
Dude, I mean, look, 192 and John Young Parkway looks like an intersection in Nicaragua.
Yeah,
they're selling peanuts and bags of water and roses and flowers. I think I saw somebody holding a monkey down there. I mean,
hey, at least they're trying to sell something, John. I'll give them that. At least they're trying to sell something.
No kidding, yeah.
Not the ones that just are out there with an old cup, and going up to the cars, And you see that all through Kissimmee. So I hate to go to Kissimmee. I really do. It's not just for that reason. There's plenty of reasons.
St. Cloud's going to be, with the leftists on the council, St. Cloud's going to be on the way.
Yeah, it's been on the way.
Let me know. As a matter of fact, we're going to have a highlight.
It's been on the way for a while now, and it's continuing down that road. The more they build, the more they overpopulate this area. You're going to see more of that element coming into St. Cloud. We've already seen it here. We've already seen plenty of homeless people over by Walmart, over by that area, camping going on in downtown in that area, over by the Save-A-Lot. You got homeless people all over the place. So,
But the reason is that look at the county commissioners and the city council. They're simply not putting the American family first. They're putting their own benefit first. And I mean their own literally, right? They have their own pet projects. They have their own idea. They have their own land use issues. They have their own properties, their own ranches. Those are the things that they're putting first. And if you put the American family first, then you'll be okay. You'll develop fine. Everything will happen fine. Why? Because if you put the American family first, you begin to listen to what the needs are. You learn. Right? There's a group intelligence that gets passed on, and things happen accordingly. But when the only thing that you can think about is greed for yourself, for your own family, for your friends, forget it. Then you're going to have exactly that. And I guarantee you that we're going to be talking about homeless people selling monkeys and grapes and fruit on the street in St. Cloud within a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Something's going to happen that is going to draw this into the news, into the media, and we will be talking about it because, like I said, we've been on that track for a while now, John, here in St. Cloud. We see it out there. We see it in downtown. We see it over by the Walmart. It's seeping in. It's coming in, and it's not going to stop. It's just only going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm going to put my sleep first right now, and we're going to call this the end of the show. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for watching. It's been a great show. We have a great number of people watching. We really appreciate you. We love you. God bless you. We'll see you next week from Unsanctioned America. Don't miss it. It'll be a good show. We have so much going on. We're going to have coverage of all the stuff going on in DC. So it's inauguration. So thank you. God bless you. Have a great night. We'll see you next week. Please like, share, follow us on X. You see it there at John Unsanctioned, at Citizen Tom Lord. On behalf of myself, former school board member John Arguello, my great friend sitting over here, Citizen Tom Lord, thank you. We'll see you next week.